ॐ विश्वन्दर्पण दृश्यमान नगरी तुल्यन्निजान्तर्गतं पश्यन्नात्मनि मायया बहिरिवोद्भूतं यथा निद्रया यः साक्षात् कुरुते प्रबोधसमये स्वात्मानमेवाद्वयम् तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नम इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये नारायणं पद्मभुवं वसिष्ठं शक्तिं च तत्पुत्रपराशरं च व्यासं शुकं गौडपदं महान्तं गोविन्दयोगीन्द्रमथास्य शिष्यं श्रीशङ्कराचार्यमथास्य पद्मपादं च हस्तामलकं च शिष्यं तन्तोटकं वार्तिककारमन्यान् अस्मद्गुरून् सन्ततमानतोऽस्मि श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः परब्रह्मनिष्ठं स्वतो धर्मनिष्ठम् अहिंसैकनिष्ठं स्वशिष्यै सुजुष्टं यतीनां वरिष्ठं गुरूणां गरिष्ठं दयानन्दरूपं मदाचार्यमीडे नमः श्री परमार्थाय संसाराध्यासनाशिने श्रोत्रिय ब्रह्मनिष्ठाय तस्मै ब्रह्मविदे नमः सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम् ॐ तपोभिः क्षीणपापानां शान्तानां वीतरागिणां मुमुक्षूणामपेक्षोऽयम् आत्मबोधो विधीयते। I welcome you all to the 17th class of the Atma Bodha series. We will chant verses 34 and 35 that we covered in the last class. And Ishwar Sharadaji is here now, so I guess that she can do the chanting as she normally does.
No problem. Sure.
We'll chant verse 34 and 35. Nirguno nishkriyo nityaha
Nirguno nishkriyo nityaha
nirvikalpo niranjanaha
nirvikalpo niranjanaha
nirvikaro nirakaraha
nirvikaro nirakaraha
Nityamuktosmi nirmalaha
Nityamuktosmi nirmalaha
Ahamakashavat sarvam
Ahamakashavat sarvam
Bahirantargatochyutaha
Bahir antargatochyutaha
Sada sarvasamassiddhaha
Tada sarvasamassiddhaha
Nissango nirmalochalaha
Nisango nirmalo chalaha
Brahma Satyam Jaganmithya Aham Brahmaiva Naparaha. This is the understanding that I have to come to after Vedanta Shravanam and Mananam. That Brahman is the absolute reality. The world that I see in front of me is not ultimately real. And who or where is this Brahman? Aham Brahmaiva Naparaha. I myself am that Brahman. Aham Brahmasmi. This is the understanding that I have to come to. And how do I come to this understanding? Through the Mahavakya Vichara that talks about the Aikyam of Jivatma and Paramatma. Through the Mahavakya Vichara, I see that there is one underlying consciousness, one underlying, all-pervading, imperishable consciousness. That is the essential nature of both the Jivatma as well as the Paramatma. So I set aside the upadhis of the Jivatma and Paramatma. I set aside the incidental to look at the essential oneness. And why do we say that this oneness is the essential oneness? Why are we saying that the upadhis are incidental? Because they are either Maya or products of Maya. The upadhis are in a lower order of reality. And therefore, the differences are also in a lower order of reality. The differences are mithya, the identity is satya. Therefore, I come to this eka aparoksha aparichinna brahmatma. My understanding was that Atma is here as the witness consciousness. When I take the Jivatma into account, and Brahman is something remote. Brahman is somewhere remote. This was my understanding. But after the Mahavakya, I should be able to say, through understanding, that Brahman that I thought was remote is none other than this Atma. When I equate Brahman to Atma, then the parokshatvam of Brahman goes away, meaning the remoteness of Brahman goes away because Atma is here and now. Therefore, that Brahman I am. And similarly, the parichinnatvam of Atma also goes away. The limitation of Atma goes away when I equate Atma to Brahman. Because Brahman is limitless. Therefore, when I equate Atma to Brahman, Atma is limitless. Therefore, I don't have any limitations at all. I don't have any limitation of space, time, or object. Therefore, I am all pervading, as I am not limited by space. I am imperishable, as I am not limited by time. And I am the Satyam, the truth of this entire Jagat. Because I am not limited by any object. Wherever any object is, I am there providing that object the very existence. Therefore, I come to this Eka Aparoksha Aparichinna Brahmatma that I am. So this is the Jnanam that I come to through the Mahavakya Shravanam as a part of Shravanam and Mananam. So with this, the ignorance-based identification with the body and mind goes. Because one clearly knows that I am this Brahmatma, not this body and mind. However, as we said, the habit-based identification with the body and mind can continue. Therefore, there can be situations where the samsari jivatma comes back not out of ignorance but out of sheer habit. As we saw, the example of the beggar who has understood that I am really a millionaire, having inherited a lot of money. But then the beggar has a habit of extending his begging bowl every time he sees somebody. And he continues to do that just out of the sheer force of habit, even though he has understood very clearly that he has inherited all this money. And he doesn't need to do this anymore. Swamiji gives another example here, which is of a house that has been remodeled. Remodel means some small changes have been done to the house. So there is this person who has the mirror in front of a sink, and he washes his face every day there, and then takes the towel and wipes his face. And as he is wiping his face, he goes through the door that is on this side, he goes to the other room. And now a certain change has been made where the door has now become a wall. And then the location of the door has shifted. So this person actually designed the whole thing, asked the people to do it. He saw the whole thing happening. He knows that that has become a wall. But then, for a few days, for a few weeks even, every time he comes here, he washes his face and then he is drying it with a towel and he tries to walk through that door which is not there. He bangs his head against the wall. Why is he doing this? Out of the force of habit. So the same thing applies here also. That there is a new reality that I have come to know now. It's a new reality. But the habits belong to the old reality. And therefore, even though I have a knowledge, the habits have not gotten acquainted with the new reality. Therefore, habitual thinking takes place according to the old reality. The old reality, which is not really worth calling reality, because it was born out of ignorance. So the habitual tendencies are born out of ignorance. The old habitual tendencies are all products of ignorance. Therefore, even though the knowledge is there, in crisis-like situations, the habits take over. And we said that in crisis, generally we don't have the leisure to step back, to think, to evaluate. In crisis, generally our responses are habitual. Therefore, during crisis, the subconscious mind takes over, the habitual thinking takes over. And therefore, the samsari jīva can come gushing with all its force. And therefore, even though one has this clear knowledge, one may be deprived of the emotional benefits of the knowledge in times of crisis. The knowledge is not available to me. And hence, Nididhyāsanam is required. Nididhyāsanam is for viparita bhavana nivrittihi, for eroding the past habitual tendencies that were born out of ignorance. And so all of these verses that we have been talking about, they are all Nididhyāsanam verses. So these verses can be memorized and used in Nididhyāsanam. One can bring each word into memory and look at the meaning of that word. And today we will talk more about this, more about the process of Nididhyāsanam. Now we saw in verse 34, Nirgunaha, I am Nirgunaha. Any guna belongs to an upadhi, that is drishyam. Any guna always belongs to the drishyam, never to the drik. So any guna can always be localized in some upadhi or the other, that is drishyam. And therefore I, the drik, am nirgunaha. And I am nishkriyaha. I don't have any activity. I am actionless. All of this activity and action belongs to the products of Prakriti, the modifications of Prakriti or the modifications of Maya. This body, mind, sense complex is a modification of Maya, and it interacts with the world. That is a modification of Maya. So modification of Maya is interacting with the modification of Maya. Then who am I? I am just the uninvolved witness of all these activities. I am Nishkriyaha. And Nityaha. These modifications of Maya come and go. And we saw Avyaktadini Bhutani vyakta madhyani bharata avyakta nidhananyeva tatra ka paridevana. Therefore, all of these products of Maya, they are unmanifest. In Maya, they become manifest and then they become unmanifest again. But I never come and go. Even during Pralaya Avastha, when the entire Jagat has become unmanifest, I am still there. The entire Jagat has become unmanifest in Maya during Pralayam. But I am still there as the very support of Maya. Well, Maya doesn't have any independent existence. Brahmashraya Maya Asti, as we saw in Atma Bodha. Maya is dependent upon Brahman for its existence. I am there even during Pralayam when everything else is wiped out. I am Nitya. And Nirvikalpaha, all of this subject-object division that I see. There are certain people who say that this subject-object division has got reality. And therefore, this subject-object division has to be eliminated and the Atma has to be experienced in Nirvikalpaka Samadhi. So I have to go to Nirvikalpaka Samadhi where this duality, subject-object duality is not there. But we say that even the Nirvikalpaka Samadhi is a time-bound experience and therefore it is limited by time. And in the Nirvikalpaka Samadhi, since all these divisions have resolved, become resolved. There is no division of Pramata, Prameya, and Pramana. Even the Pramata, Prameya, Pramana divisions have resolved in Nirvikalpaka Samadhi. So in such a situation, no new knowledge can take place. Because for knowledge to take place, this triputi of Pramata, Prameya, and Pramana has to be there. Therefore, even in Nirvikalpaka Samadhi, even though one may experience the absence of duality, it is an avastha. It is a time-bound avastha, and this triputi is not there. Therefore, no new knowledge takes place. So the ignorance remains intact. The ignorance is also unmanifest. The ignorance remains intact. And when one comes out of the Nirvikalpaka Samadhi, at that point, now the ignorance becomes active. It causes adhyasa of apurnatvam. One will still say, I am apurna. Therefore, samsara continues. So what Vedanta says is that I have to recognize that I am nirvikalpaka. I am nirvikalpaha. As the Atma. As the Atma, I am the adhishthanam of the subject and the object. And therefore, in the adhishthanam, that is me, the Atma, there is no subject-object duality. The subject-object duality is mithya. Atma is satyam. Subject-object duality is an appearance, exactly like the subject-object duality in my dream. When I awaken from the dream, the subject-object duality in the dream that I experienced is not there in the waker. So similarly, the subject-object duality is not in me, the Atma. I am nirvikalpa. Niranjana. I am free of all of these punyas and papas. How? Just like in the dream, if I have committed an act, when I awaken from the dream, I cannot be punished for that act. Because as we saw, the meaning of the word I has undergone a revolutionary transformation, a revolutionary change. In the dream, the I referred to this pratibhasika individual, body, mind in the dream. But when the meaning of the word I changed, now after waking up, it refers to the vyavaharika individual. Therefore, all the karmas of the dream, they get wiped out. So similarly, we say that when this I, the meaning of the word I, changes from the Vyavaharika individual to the Paramarthika Satyam, that is the Atma. When this word I, when the meaning of the word I transitions across orders of reality, then the karmas of the previous order of reality are wiped out, and therefore the karmas that are Vyavaharika also get wiped out. In Atma, there is no karma, no punya papa. Atma is Niranjanaha. In Nididhyāsanam, I say, I am Niranjana. Nirvikaraha, being Nirgunaha, I am Nirvikaraha. Vikaraha or change can only belong to something that is Saguna. And I am Nirgunaha, therefore I am Nirvikaraha. And Nirakaraha, I am the content behind every name and behind every form. Therefore, behind every akara, behind every form, I am there as the very content. But I myself am formless. Exactly like gold is the content of every ornament. But gold itself doesn't have any specific form. Gold can take any form. Therefore, I am Nirakaraha and Nirmalaha. All these limitations of the body, mind, etc., they are not there in me. Mortality of the body, etc., and all of these raga dveshas, they are not in me. I am Nirmalaha. In me there is no apurnatvam. In me there is no samsara as a result of apurnatvam. And hence I am Nityamuktaha. As we saw, moksha atyantika dukkha nivrittihi paramananda praptischa. So complete cessation, absolute cessation of all sorrow. Atyantika dukkha nivritti. This is already accomplished in me because I am the Asanga Atma. As the Asanga Atma, I don't have any relationship with any samsarika dukkham. Any samsarika dukkham, I have no connection. Therefore, Atyantika dukkha nivritti already accomplished. And Paramananda Praptihi is also already accomplished because my nature is that I am full, limitless, and complete. And therefore, moksha is my nature. And therefore, I can say I am a muktaha. But like we saw, I can only say I am a muktaha if I was a baddha earlier. But I was never a baddha. I am not a baddha, and I can never ever be a baddha. All of these limitations, they are only in anatma, that is mithya. They don't apply to me at all. Therefore, I am ever free of all these limitations. I was, am, and ever will be free. Therefore, I am a Nityamukta. And aham akashavat sarvam bahirantar gatochuta. I am all pervading. Akashavat, like space, I am all pervading. And achyutaha, meaning I never have a fall, decline, or destruction. We saw, and I am nityaha. I am not touched by the coming and going of all these mithya products. I am always there as the adhishthana. And my nature, that is purnatvam, I can never lose my nature of being purnatvam. I am ever full and complete. Therefore, I can never lose my purnatvam. I am achyuta. Sada sarva samaha, like gold is the same in all the ornaments, being the upadhana karanam of all the ornaments. I, being Brahmatma, am the same in all the products of Maya. Whichever product of Maya I take, I am uniformly there. I see that the sameness in everything. Just like we saw, Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Brahmane Gavi Hastini. Shuni chaiva shupakecha panditaha samadarshinaha. The wise person, the panditaha, the wise people, They are samadarshinaha, meaning they see the sameness everywhere, whether it be a highly cultured person, a cow, an elephant, a dog, or a dog eater. For the wise person, all of these are my names and forms. I am uniformly there in the entire Srishti. Sada sarva samaha siddhaha. Siddha meaning that I am self-evident. Everything else needs to become evident to me. Everything else is pramana siddham. I need a means of knowledge to know the existence of anything else. But to know my own existence, I don't need a means of knowledge. I don't need to employ any means of knowledge. Because I know that I am, and I am the one who is employing all the means of knowledge. Quote, I am self-evident, as we saw, Swayam Prakashaha. Self-luminous, self-evident, self-revealing. Siddhaha, Nissangaha. Nissangaha is another way to another synonym for asangaha, meaning I am not related to anything. Like we saw the example of the actor. The actor puts on a costume and enters a play. And then in the drama, he has got a son, a daughter, a father, mother, etc. So in the drama, he has got certain relationships with all of these people. But once he comes to the green room, he removes his costume. Then he is still related to those people. In the green room, does he still say that you are my wife, you are my daughter, you are my mother? He doesn't say that because the reality has changed. When the reality changes, the relationships also change. Therefore, for this person who is now aware of his new reality as the Brahmatma, he is not related to anything at all, being asanga. All of these relationships come into existence only when one dons the costume of the jiva. And in the Vyavaharika reality, these relationships have a certain place, definitely. But then when I come to the Paramarthika reality, then as the Atma, as the Brahmatma, I am asangaha. All of these relationships of Vyavaharika don't apply to me at all. And this is the point at which we stopped in the last class. Continue. Nirmalaha. Nirmalochalaha. So Bhagavad is very, very fond of this word Nirmala. It will appear in multiple times in different shlokas. And I saw that in Atma Bodha, there are 4 occurrences of Nirmala. One of the Bhagavad favorite words, as he is repeating it. So in general, we understand Nirmalaha as I am free of all the limitations due to upadhis. All of these limitations of the upadhis are transferred to me only because of ignorance. They are only seemingly transferred to me, like this redness of the flower is transferred to the crystal. But really speaking, I don't have any of these limitations. Therefore, I am free of all these sthula sharira, impurities, like all of these shad vikaras, asti, jayate, vardhate, viparinamate, apakshiyate, vinashyati. All of these vikaras are not there in me, or mortality is not there in me. I am free of all these sukshma sharira attributes like raga, dvesha, kama, krodha, lobha, moha, madamatsarya. I am free of all of these. And I am free of all the limitations of the karta, bhokta, and pramata, as we have seen. All of these karta, bhokta, and pramata, they have their limitations. I don't have any of these limitations. And even the Karana Sharira is the storehouse of all of the karmas. I, being free of all of these karmas, don't have the limitations associated with the Karana Sharira also. Nirmalaha. And I am Achalaha. So even Akashavat, you can say Akashavat, I am Achalaha, like space. Space doesn't move from one place to another. Because space is all pervading. Like Puja Swamiji gives this example that when we are traveling, then I have to pack all of my belongings. So I pack some clothes and all the necessary items like toothbrush, toothpaste, whatever I have to pack. But one thing I don't have to pack, which is the space that is within the body. Like the space in my stomach. I don't have to pack the space in my stomach or the space in my lungs or the space in my heart. I travel along with the suitcase, the body travels along with the suitcase. And then in the new location, one may have taken a long flight. The new location, space being all pervading, is there. And that all pervading space is enclosed by the body in the new location. Similarly, another thing that I don't have to pack, which is consciousness. Consciousness is also all pervading. Being all pervading, it is there wherever I go. Consciousness doesn't move from one place to another. It is Achala. There is another figurative meaning of Achalaha also, which is unshakable. As the Atma, I am not dependent on anything at all. My fullness, completeness, limitlessness, it is independent. And therefore I am unshakable. In Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavan Sri Krishna said, Guruna api dukkhena na vichalyate. Meaning that even the greatest of sorrows cannot shake the Atma. All this sorrow, etc., is all some change in Mithya. It is all due to some change in Mithya. And the change in Mithya causes sorrow if one has some dependency on that changing Mithya. And as this Atma, I am not dependent on anything at all. Therefore, I am unshakable, Achala. We'll go to the next verse, verse 36. Nityashuddha vimuktaikam
Nityashuddha-vimuktaikam
Akhaṇḍānandam Advayam
Akhaṇḍānandam
Satyam Jnanam Anantam Yat
Satyam Jnanamanantam Yat
Param Brahmāhameva Tat.
Param Brahmāhameva Tat.
So again, the Nididhyāsanam verses are continuing. Nityashuddha. I am Nityashuddha. Meaning that it is not that I have become pure after knowledge. After the rise of knowledge, it is not that I have become pure. I understand with the knowledge, I understand that I have always been pure. Any idea of impurity, any idea of any kind of thinking that I am impure, prior to the rise of knowledge, was a result of ignorance only. I am Nityashuddha, eternally free of all impurities. I was free, I am free, and I ever will be free. And Nityavimukta, the word Nitya can be added to Shuddha, Vimukta, and Eka. Even though it says Nityashuddha Vimuktaikam, we can say Nityashuddha, Nityavimukta, and Nityaikam. So Nityavimukta, you've already seen this. Nityamukta. I was liberated, I am liberated, I will ever be liberated. In fact, it is impossible for me to become bound, for me to become liberated. Since I was never bound, I don't even need liberation. Well, liberation is my very nature. Moksha is my very nature. And Nityaikam means I am ever one. In the beginning, before Srishti, Brahman alone was there. I alone was there as Brahma. And after Srishti, during Pralayam, I alone will be there as Brahma. Now, even during Srishti, I alone am as Brahman. In fact, it is I, Brahman alone, that appears as many. This manyness, this manifoldness is an appearance. Exactly like in the dream, there are many things that appear. But in reality, the waker alone is there. Waker alone is projecting the dream. So the waker alone, one appears as many. So here too, I am that one Brahmatma that appears as many. I was one, am one, and ever will be one. Nityaikam. And Akhaṇḍānandam. Akhaṇḍānandam Advaya. We are familiar with Ananda, meaning the experiential happiness. And that is Khandānanda, meaning that it is experiential happiness that is limited by time. Because experiential happiness always comes and also goes. And as we have seen, it has got gradations. Experiential happiness has got gradations. Priya, Moda, and Pramoda Vritti. Happy, happier, happiest. Experiential happiness has got gradations. Experiential happiness comes and goes. But this experiential happiness is only the Pratibimbita Ananda, is a reflected happiness. Reflected in a conducive state of mind. When the mind is in a conducive state, it reflects this Ananda. So if there has to be a reflection, there has to be the original. Only if the original is there, can there be a reflection. So what is the original? What is the original Ananda? I am the original Ananda. Because my nature is limitlessness, fullness, and completeness. I never come and go. And therefore, as this is my nature also never comes and goes. I am always of the nature of Ananda. Therefore, I am Akhaṇḍānanda, meaning that this Ananda never comes and goes. You cannot draw any boundary for it. Sometimes it is manifested as Khandānanda in a conducive state of mind. Sometimes it is not manifest as Khandānanda because the state of mind may not be conducive. But whether it is manifest as Khandānanda or not manifest as Khandānanda, which is what we call the Anandamaya Kosha. Whether the Anandamaya Kosha is there or not, my nature never leaves me. I am always Akhaṇḍānanda, full, limitless, and complete. And Advayam, meaning that there is no second thing other than me. Even if I take Anatma, any Anatma is not a second thing other than me. It is either Maya or some product of Maya which never has any independent existence. So I am the only Satyam, all else is Mithya. Atma Satyam Tadanyat Sarvam Mithyati. I am the only non-dual reality. I am Advaya. And Satyam Jnanam Anantam Yat. I am of the nature of Satyam, meaning of the nature of existence. So as we have seen, the 5 features of gold. Gold is not a part, product, or property of any ornament. Gold is an independent principle that pervades every ornament and makes it exist. Gold is not limited by the boundary of any ornament. And gold continues to exist even after any ornament disintegrates or after all ornaments disintegrate. And the gold that continues to exist after all the ornaments disintegrate cannot be worn, cannot be worn as an ornament, not because it is not there, but because it is not manifest as an ornament. That's all. So similarly, I, the Atma, I, the Brahmatma, am not, which is existence. I, the existence, am not a part, product, or property of any object. I, the existence, am an independent principle that pervades every object and makes the object exist. I, the existence, am not limited by the boundary of any object. And I, the existence, continue to exist even after all the objects may disintegrate during pralaya. And I, the existence that continues to exist even after everything has disintegrated, cannot be transacted with, not because I am not there, but because I, the existence, am not manifest in the form of any object to transact. Therefore, I am Satyam. Jnanam, I am of the nature of consciousness. Again, 5 features of consciousness we can recall here. I, the consciousness, am not a part, product, or property of any body mind. I, the consciousness, am an independent principle that pervades all the body minds and enlivens all the body minds. I, the consciousness, am not limited by the boundaries of any body mind. I, the consciousness, continue to exist even after all the body mind disintegrate. And I, the consciousness that continues to exist even after all the body minds disintegrate, cannot be transacted with, not because it is not there, but because there is no body mind to manifest that consciousness. I am Jnanam. And I am Anantam, as we saw in the 3rd feature. I am not limited by the boundaries of any object. I am not limited by the boundaries of any body mind. Therefore, I, as the Satyam Jnanam, am Anantam, limitless. So, Satyam Jnanam Anantam Yat, that which is of the nature of Satyam Jnanam Anantam. What is that? Parabrahma, that Param Brahma, that Brahman, which is of the nature of Satyam Jnanam and Anantam, Aham Eva Tat, I am that Brahman. So here the word tat is used to indicate the lakshyartha of the tatpada. Lakshyartha of the tatpada Ishvara is Brahman, the all-pervading, imperishable consciousness that I am claiming, the Sakshi Chaitanyam, the Atma, I am that. There is one Brahmatma, which is named the Atma in the context of Jivatma, and the same Brahmatma is named Brahman in the context of Paramatma. So I am that Brahman. Saying that Brahman is wonderful, I am miserable, cannot liberate me. What I say, what I understand through Shravanam and Mananam, and what I am recalling in Nididhyāsanam is that I am Brahman, which is wonderful, full, limitless, complete, and which is ever unaffected by all mithya, which is ever purnaha. This understanding alone is liberation. We'll go to verse 37. Evam nirantarabhyasta
एवं निरन्तराभ्यस्ता
brahmaivasmiti vasana
ब्रह्मैवास्मि इति वासना
haratya vidya vikshepan
हरत्य विद्या विक्षेपान्
roga nivarasayanam.
रोगानिवरसायनम्
एवं निरन्तराभ्यस्ता ब्रह्म एव अस्मि इति वासना हरति अविद्या विक्षेपान् रोगान् इव रसायनम. So he says that whenever we have to understand any verse, we first get hold of the verb in the verse. We get hold of the Kriya Padam. And then we can understand that verse by asking the various questions about the Kriya Padam, about the action that is being done. So here the Kriya Padam is Harati. Harati. Meaning Harati means that it removes, it takes away, or he removes, he takes away, or she removes, she takes away, or it removes, it takes away. So what removes or takes away? We ask that question. What removes or takes away? We say Brahmaivasmiti vasana harati. Brahma eva asmi iti vasana harati. Meaning that Brahma eva asmi, I am Brahman, nothing but Brahman. That is why eva is there. I am Brahman, nothing but Brahman. This vasana. Vasana means this habitual thinking, this reorientation, this disposition that has entered the subconscious mind. That's when it becomes a vasana. So that harati, Brahma eva asmi iti vasana harati. It removes or takes away. Now the question is, what kind of vasana is this? What kind of vasana? He says, evam nirantarabhyasta. Meaning, evam, meaning in this manner. In which manner? In the manner which has been described in all these Nididhyāsanam verses. In this manner. Nirantarabhyasta. Meaning this has to be, this Nididhyāsanam has to be, abhyasa of this has to be done for a length of time. Abhyasta. Abhyasa means practice. This practice of Nididhyāsanam has to be done for a length of time. Nirantarabhyasta. Unbroken, in an unbroken manner. Nirantara abhyasta. That I am this Nityamukta Ātma Brahman. So initially it's a thought. It's a thought. After Jnanam, it is more like a thought that comes and goes. But in Nididhyāsana, I am soaking in that thought, soaking the mind in all of these, this primary thought that I am Brahman and all of the implications of it. I'm soaking the mind in it. Like we said, the pickle being marinated in the brine. I am marinating the mind in this brine of Vedantic teaching, Vedantic knowledge. And then this teaching enters the subconscious mind and becomes a vasana. Evam nirantarabhyasta brahmaivasmiti vasana harati. So in this manner, this vasana that has been practiced in Nididhyāsanam for a long time and has entered the subconscious mind, become a habit. It removes, he says. Harati. What does it remove? It removes avidya vikshepan. Avidya vikshepan is removed. What is avidya vikshepan? Avidya vikshepan harati, he said. So avidya vikshepan refers to the old habitual thinking patterns, as we have seen. So it is not avidya, we should remember. Avidya haranam, when does it take place? It takes place during Shravanam and Mananam, with the rise of the Atmakara vritti. That is when avidya goes. Here it's avidya vikshepa that goes. Old habitual thinking patterns based on ignorance. Because the reality, my understanding of the reality has changed. And I'm still getting accustomed habitually to the new reality. What are the old habitual thinking patterns based on ignorance? What is avidya vikshepa? What are these old habitual thinking patterns? We say that primarily it is threefold. This is what Swamiji calls the triangular format. Triangular format. The triangular format means that there is Jivaha, Jagat, and Ishvaraha. So I am this limited Jivaha. This is the first pillar of the triangular format. I am this limited, struggling, samsari Jivatma. The second pillar of the triangular format is that I am persecuted by the separate Jagat due to my karmas. So there is the separate real Jagat. And I am persecuted in this separate real Jagat by the separate real Jagat due to my past karmas. And the third pillar is that Ishvara is my savior. Every time I am being persecuted by the Jagat, I run to Ishvara for Ishvara to save me. This is the triangular format vāsanā, which is deeply entrenched in the mind. And then there are associated two vāsanas, that moksha, I have to get liberated from this persecution, from this bondage of karma. I have to get liberated. And therefore moksha is a goal to be achieved. And I am a sadhaka. I am a seeker of moksha who's trying to attain moksha, trying to become a mukta. So all of these are the habitual thinking patterns based on ignorance that is deeply entrenched in the mind. This is the avidya vikshepa. And as we say, old habits die hard. Old habits die hard. All of these habits have been practiced for janmas and janmas. As a jīva, all of these habits have been practiced. Therefore, they are deeply entrenched. These are the habits that have to be rectified. These are the habits that have to be removed. And how are these habits removed? By making the new vasana stronger. New vasana has to become stronger. And what is the new vasana? It is what Swamiji calls the binary format vasana. Meaning that this Jiva, Jagat, Ishvara triangle is no longer there. It is Atma and Anatma only. I am the Brahmatma, that is Satyam, and all else is Mithya. All else is Anatma, that is Mithya. Therefore, as this Atma, I am the very substratum of the Jiva, of the Jagat and Ishvara. I am the Adhishthanam of Jiva, Jagat and Ishvara, as this Brahmatma. And therefore, I am not a limited Jiva, not a limited struggling samsari Jiva. I break the first pillar of the triangular format. And this world being Mithya, it is impossible for this world to persecute me. And all of these karmas that I thought they were responsible for persecuting me have all been falsified. This knocks off the second pillar of the triangular format. And being the very Adhishthanam, Jiva, Jagat and Ishvara, I don't need to be saved. I am Nitya. I am utterly unaffected by any anatma. Therefore, I don't need to be saved. Hence, I don't even need a savior, Ishvara. The third pillar of the triangular format is gone. And then moksha is my very nature as this Brahmatma. Moksha is not a goal to be accomplished. And as this Brahmatma, I am not a sadhaka, but I am siddha, meaning that whatever is being sought, it is already accomplished. Moksha is already accomplished. So what am I a seeker for? Not even a seeker at all. But I am the one who has attained what is being sought. Therefore, I am a siddha. And as we said, this is not a new attainment. It is not a new attainment. It is not apraptasya praptihi. It is praptasya praptihi. Whatever I thought I needed to attain was always attained. I just did not know it. Now I know that whatever I was seeking to attain has always been attained. Therefore, I am a siddha. And moksha is not a sadhyam, something to be attained. And I am not a sadhaka. So how does this new vāsanā, this binary format vāsanā, how does it become stronger? Evam nirantarabhyasta. In this manner, when it is constantly in this is jnana abhyasa, that one does, if at all one can use the term jnana abhyasa, because everybody says, now what do I practice? What do I practice? So, as we have said, there is practice involved in gaining the qualifications with this karma yoga and upasana yoga. And in Shravanam and Mananam, really speaking, there is no practice because one has come to Jnanam. So in Jnanam, there is really no practice at all. It is just exposing oneself to the pramana for the Jnanam to take place. And subsequently, in Nididhyāsanam, we are calling it a form of practice. This is not an action at all. This is not karma. In fact, what I am engaging in is just marinating the mind in the jnanam, in the teaching of Vedanta. What I have learned through the pramana, I am reliving the shravanam in Nididhyāsanam. So this is not really a karma, and therefore this practice is not some kind of karma, really speaking. It's jnana abhyasa, nididhyasana abhyasa. So evam nirantarabhyasta. And then what happens? He gives an example. Roganiva rasayanam. Yatha rasayanam rogan harati. Like the medicine, it removes a disease. For some cases, I have to regularly consume the medicine. So even after the medicine has wiped out, has actually cured the disease, you have to consume the medicine for a length of time to ensure that the disease is completely eradicated from the body. So similarly, for months and years, one may have to consume this medicine. So similarly, one has to contemplate on this for years altogether. Evam nirantarabhyasta. And what is the change that comes about as a result of this? Do I become liberated as a result of this? We say no. Nididhyāsanam. First of all, do I gain knowledge as a result of this? We say no. It's not knowledge. Nididhyāsanam is not for jnanam. Jnanam has to be gained through shravanam and mananam. Then do I get liberated as a result of this? We say, I also don't get liberated as a result of this because through that jnanam gained in Shravanam, I understand that I have always been eternally liberated. Liberation is my very nature. Therefore, I don't even gain jnanam, I don't gain moksha as a result of nididhyāsanam. Then do I gain some special experience? Say no, this is not for some special experience also. Aim of Vedanta is not some extraordinary experience, but it is the extraordinary understanding that I am the extraordinary Brahman in every ordinary experience. And what have I gained? Harati avidya vikshepan. It removes the habitual thinking patterns that were born out of ignorance. And I wouldn't even use the word removes. It erodes. It erodes the effect of those. Because really speaking, all of these vasanas have been gained for countless janmas. For countless janmas, all these vasanas have been gained. And therefore, if one has to eradicate all these vasanas, one will need countless janmas to eradicate these vasanas, which is impossible. In that case, there would be no possibility of a Jivan Mukta, because everybody will be constantly eradicating vasanas for infinite janmas, which means for infinite janmas, you cannot have a Jivan Mukta. That is not the case here. We are not talking about eradication of all these vasanas. All we are saying is that we are reducing the impact of all these vasanas. In times of crisis, I am ensuring that I am able, this knowledge is available for me. And it will be impossible to eradicate all these vasanas. There is no perfect mind. There will never be a perfect mind. Even a jnani does not have a perfect mind. So the aim is not the perfection of mind here, because mind is anatma, and anatma will always be imperfect. And therefore, my liberation is not because I have a perfect mind, but my liberation is in spite of me having an imperfect mind. And therefore, what happens in day-to-day life, and here too FIR reduction applies. I'll find the frequency of negative reactions come down, the intensity of negative reactions come down, and if at all there is a negative reaction, the recovery period from the negative reaction will come down. This is the result. And it is not, I have to always remember that I am unconditionally liberated in spite of an imperfect mind. The improvement of the mind becomes a lifelong hobby. So this is a vasana changing project, which we call Nididhyāsanam. Then we'll go to the next verse, verse 38. Vivikta desha asīnaha
विविक्तदेश आसीनः
virago vijitendriyaha
विरागो विजितेन्द्रियः
भावयेदेकमात्मानम्
भावयेत् एकमात्मानं
तमनन्तमनन्यधीः.
तमनन्तमनन्त्यधीः.
As we have seen, there are three forms that Nididhyāsanam can take. Brahmabhyasa Rupa Nididhyāsanam, Shravanabhyasa Rupa Nididhyāsanam, and Samadhi Abhyasa Rupa Nididhyāsanam. So as we have seen in Brahmabhyasa Rupa Nididhyāsanam, this can be an open-eyed meditation, open-eyed contemplation. I may be sitting, standing, walking, eating. I may be lying down, and I am marinating the mind in the teachings of Vedanta, in the brine of Vedanta. So this may be open-eyed contemplation, or one may write about it, read about it, share this with others. And even teaching this is a form of Nididhyāsanam. So in Panchadashi, there's the shloka that says, Tat Chintanam, Tat Kathanam, Anyonyam, Tat Prabodhanam. Etad Eka Paratvam Cha Tadabhyasam Vidurbudhaha. Tat Chintanam, thinking about this. Tat Kathanam, talking about this. Anyonyam Tat Prabodhanam, making each other understand this. Tad etad eka paratvam, so keeping the mind fully engaged in this. Abhyasam, tad abhyasam viduhu udhaha. So the wise call this abhyasa, this is Brahma abhyasa rupa nididhyasana. And as we have said, Shravana Abhyasa Rupa Nididhyāsanam, subsequent Shravanams also become a form of Nididhyāsanam. Whenever the Guru uses the word Atma or Brahman, I replace that mentally with the word I and see the truth of what is being talked about. And then there is Samadhi Abhyasa Rupa Nididhyāsanam, where I sit in a particular place with closed eyes and then contemplate upon these teachings. So this verse is talking about Samadhi Abhyasa Rupa Nididhyāsanam, where I dwell upon each word, focusing the mind. For example, and then I can customize the meditation according to my own old habits or the problems that my old habits are creating. For example, if relationships are a problem, I can recall the asangatvam, nisangatvam of the Atma in my contemplation. If fear is a problem, fear of death is a problem, then I can contemplate on my nityatvam in Nididhyāsanam. So just like for every particular disease, there is a targeted medicine. Similarly, we can also target the kind of meditation that we do. And this becomes a form of self-counseling in some ways. You don't have to go and pay a psychiatrist to counsel. This Nididhyāsanam itself becomes a form of self-counseling. So again he says, bhavayet. Bhavayet means dhyayet, chintayet. May one contemplate. And how does one contemplate? Bringing back the essence of what I have learned in Shravanam and Mananam. And kim kurvan bhavayet, meaning that what do I contemplate? So here it is asinaha. Asinaha. Meaning upavishan, sitting. Sitting I contemplate. So I need to have some for this samadhi abhyasa rupa nididhyāsanam. It may take some time for the body to get accustomed to this. I should be able to sit in a particular place for some period of time. And if one has a problem sitting on the floor, one can even sit on a chair. So there is ideally, and Bhagavad Gita chapter 6 gets into this, where one ideally requires an asana. And then one sits on that asanam, and then the posture, there has to be a certain posture where I keep my back straight and my neck, all of those are aligned in a straight line. So some of those requirements are there ideally. If one can do it, that is better. And then one has a tendency to move around, etc. So here I try not to. So sitting still. And there is a term called asana siddhi. And asana siddhi means if I choose any particular asana, I should be able to sit still in that position for about 48 minutes. If I do that, it's called asana siddhi. Ideally, I should be able to sit for 48 minutes without moving. But then we don't have to look at even that long a duration because people have busy lives. So even if one can start with 5 minutes, 10 minutes every day, and then gradually as one gets the leisure, one can increase it. That is what it says here, asinaha, upavishan bhavayet. Sitting, contemplate. And sitting where? Vivikta deshe. So here in the sloka it says Vivikta Desha Asinaha. So that is because of a Sandhi rule that Vivikta Deshe, the Ekara has been omitted because of a Sandhi rule here. So it's Vivikta Deshe Asinaha. It's not a typing mistake, but it's a Sandhi rule. So Vivikta Deshe means I choose an isolated place. So that there is less scope for disturbance. And one sits in this isolated place, and ideally that place can have some good vibrations, etc., like having having a picture of Ishvara and having the picture of certain Mahatmas and having Vedanta books in those places. So that kind of an environment I can try to create in wherever I'm living, and ideally that place I choose a time which is a quieter time of the day. So trying to do this before everybody else is up, and before the activity begins in the house. That would be an ideal time. So Vivikta Deshe, and in an appropriate kala also, that is implied. Vivikta Deshe Asinaha Bhavayet. And then what? Who is doing this contemplation? Vijitendriyaha. Vijitani Indriyani Yena Saha. Meaning by one by whom the Indriyas have been restrained, by whom the sense organs have been restrained. Well, we have seen the world enters through the sense organs. And we are trying to minimize the possibility of disturbances and trying to contemplate intensely on this teaching. So I am trying to minimize the external disturbances. And this implies that one has relaxed one's body and the prana and all that. Because here he is talking about manomaya kosha. Vijitendriya means manomaya kosha has been restrained, relaxed. So before that, one has to relax the body, annamaya kosha. One has to relax the pranas. If one knows certain pranayamas, those are also useful. So sitting in an asana and having done pranayama, relaxing the annamaya and the pranamaya kosha, vijitendriya, one who has restrained the senses. And viragaha, meaning this person has vairagya. So the mind has a tendency to contemplate on the sense objects, habitual tendency to contemplate on the sense objects. And therefore, even if one sits in the meditation, the mind may habitually contemplate on the sense objects. But since this person has gone through Shravanam and Mananam and also gained the Jnana, we are talking about somebody who has Vairagya to a certain measure. So he is a Viragaha. But we say that the Vairagyam that is gained through Karma Yoga and Upasana Yoga and through Dosha Drishti, as we have seen, Dosha Drishti, one of the methods of gaining Vairagya, where I see that whatever sense object the mind has a tendency to contemplate on, it has three defects. Dukkha Mishritatvam, Atriptikaratvam, Bandhakatvam. It is mixed with sorrow. It always leaves me unfulfilled. Dukkha Mishritatvam, Atriptikaratvam, and Bandhakatvam, it has a tendency to make me dependent. So all of this Viveka has been done by this person. And therefore, he has a certain measure of Vairagya. But we say that the Jnanam only increases this Vairagyam, makes it stronger. Because the Jnanam adds an additional dimension to the Dosha Drishti, that whatever the mind is habitually trying to contemplate on is mithya. It doesn't really exist. In a beach, the person runs towards the silver, thinking that he is going to profit from it. But once he understands that it is not silver, but it is a shell, it is not Rajadam, but it is Shuktika, once that Jnanam dawns on him, then will he still cling to it? Will he still contemplate on it? Will he still run towards it? Will he still depend on it? No. Once this Jnanam is there, then that only fortifies and strengthens the Vairagya. Therefore, Viragaha. This person has got Vairagya. And Ananyadhihi, meaning that he has got the knowledge that Mattaha Anyat Kinchidapi Nasti iti dhihi yasya. Mattaha Anyat Kinchidapi Nasti iti dhihi yasya. Such a dhi he has got, what kind of buddhi he has got. Dhi means buddhi. He has got this buddhi that other than me, nothing else is there. So such a person is called ananyadhihi here. And only one who has been exposed to the teaching, to the shravanam and mananam, only such a person can say this. Ananyadhihi. So vivikta deshe viragaha vichitendriyaha ananyadhihi asinaha. So in a vivikta desha, in a secluded place, this person who is a vijitendriyaha, who is viragaha, who is ananyadhihi, he is sitting in contemplation. What should he contemplate on? Tam ekam atmanam. That one Atma I am. So I am the Eka Aparoksha Aparichinna Brahm Atma. He contemplates on this. And what kind of Atma? Anantam Atmanam. That I am limitless, not limited by space, time, or object, and therefore I am all-pervading, I am imperishable, and I am not limited by any object, because I am the only Satyam there is. I am the Satyam Eka Aparoksha Brahmatma. Satya Eka Aparoksha Brahmatma I am. This is the contemplation. And we will complete the next verse also. Atmanyevakhilam drishyam
Atmanyevakhilam drishyam
pravilapya dhiya sudhihi
pravilapya dhiya sudhihi
bhavayedekamatmanam
bhavayed ekam atmanam
nirmalakashavat sada.
Nirmala kashavat sada.
Brahma Satyam, Jagan Mithya, Aham Brahmaiva Naparaha are the three pillars of the Vedantic teachings. So the last shloka contemplated on Aham Brahmaiva Naparaha, that I am Brahma. Whereas this shloka is coming to Jagan Mithya. Jagat Mithyatvam, Jagan Mithyatvam it is talking about. So I come to the Jagat Mithya contemplation. What is the relationship between I, the Atma, and the observed world? As we have seen, Atma Satyam Tadanyat Sarvam Mithyeti. I am Satyam, the world is Mithya. The world appears to be substantial, appears to be very solid, but if I inquire into the world, everything keeps disappearing into something else. Everything becomes a Namarupa and becomes something else. If I take a shirt, then the shirt I realize is the Namarupa of fabric. So the shirt becomes the Namarupa of fabric, that is the Satya. But if I take this fabric itself, then the fabric disappears into yarn. And therefore the shirt and the fabric become Namarupa of yarn. But if I take the yarn, then the yarn disappears into fibers. So then the shirt, the fabric, and the yarn become Namarupa of fibers. But if I take the fiber, then that disappears into cotton. So all of the shirt, fabric, yarn, and fiber, they're all Namarupa of cotton. So similarly, anything I take, that disappears into something else, some other substance. I find something else is the substance, that is the Namarupa. So then the question comes, what is the final substance here? Everything is a Namarupa. What is the final substance? I, the Atma, am the final substance. Just like in the dream, I see a lot of things, but everything is reduced to the Namarupa. The substance is the observer who is the waker. Similarly, I, the observer of the entire world, reduce everything to Namarupa. I am the final substance. Therefore he says bhavayet. Again, bhavayet means chintayet, dhyayet, may one contemplate. In this case, who is contemplating? May who contemplate? Sudhihi. Sudhihi means the wise one. And he is called wise because he has this aparoksha jnanam, having gone through Shravanam and Manam. The Nididhyāsanam is not for understanding Vedanta. The Nididhyāsanam is for assimilating Vedanta. So the person who is doing Vedanta, Nididhyāsanam, already a Sudhi. And what is he contemplating on? Again, Ekam Atmanam. The non-dual Atma he is contemplating on, which is the ultimate stuff, the ultimate substance of this entire Jagat. And how do I come to that non-dual Atma? Pravilapya. Pravilapya. Meaning having dissolved. Having dissolved. Having dissolved what? Akhilam drishyam. Akhilam drishyam pravilapya. Khilam means leftover. Something that is leftover is called khilam. Akhilam means without any leftover. Meaning entire. So the entire drishyam. Drishyam meaning anything I objectify, anything that I can see as an object or understand as an object. That is drishyam. The entire Jagat is drishyam, including my body and mind. It's all drishyam. So akhilam drishyam pravilapya, having dissolved the entire Jagat, that includes the body and mind. And in what is this dissolved? Atmani eva. So akhilam Jagat, akhilam drishyam atmani eva pravilapya. When you have dissolved this entire drishya prapancha, in what? In the Atma. And what does it mean to dissolve something into Atma? What does it mean to dissolve the entire body, entire Jagat and this body-mind into Atma? It means seeing the fact that this whole world and this body-mind are all mithya. I alone am the substance. That is what we mean by the dissolution. I alone am. Exactly like one dissolves the pot. One looks at a pot and one dissolves the pot into what? Into clay. So seeing the pot is only a nama rupa of clay. There is no pot other than the clay. Clay alone is, this is what is dissolving the pot into clay. Dissolving the product into its upadana karanam. Into the karanam. Dissolving the karyam into the karanam. So there is no world other than the Atma. The Akasha is also I, the Atma plus Namarupa is Akasha. I, the Atma plus Namarupa is Vayu. I, the Atma plus Namarupa alone am the Pancha Sukshma Bhutani. I, the Atma plus Namarupa is the entire Sukshma Prapancha. I, the Atma plus Namarupa is the entire Sthula Prapancha. The substance is I, the Atma alone. And even I, the Atma plus Namarupa is the Jīva. I, the Atma plus Namarupa alone is Ishvara also. I dissolve both the Jīva and the Ishvara in this one Atma. That is the ultimate Upadana, Vivatta Upadana Karanam, that is Brahman. So when we say I, we should remember we are not talking about this body-mind. Vachyatha I, we are talking about the Lakshyatha I, which is the original consciousness. That is one and non-dual. And how do I dissolve this world? With what do I dissolve this world? For example, to dissolve salt in water, you need like a spoon or some stirring instrument. What is the instrument with which I dissolve this world? He said, Dhiya. Dhiya means with this buddhi. With what kind of buddhi? Buddhi that has the jnanam. I invoke the Jnanam and I dissolve the entire world in the Atma. Like we say, the Vedantin dissolves the pot into clay with one's eyes that is backed by the Jnana, that there is only the clay. Similarly, I dissolve the entire prapancha and this body-mind into this Brahmatma with this buddhi that has the jnanam, that I am the ultimate substance. Aham satyam, Atma satyam, tadanyat sarvam mithyate. And what is this compared to? What is the Atma comparable to? Nirmala Akashavat. Again, Nirmala. This is the fourth occurrence of Nirmala in Atma Bodha. Nirmala Akashavat. So the Mithya wave can destroy buildings if it comes in the form of a tsunami. The Mithya wave can topple ships in the ocean if it's a large wave. But there's one thing the Mithya wave cannot touch, and that is the water. That is the Karanam of the Mithya wave. Mithya wave cannot touch water, much less destroy it. Similarly, the Mithya ornament can never affect the gold. In the same manner, this Mithya Anatma cannot touch me, who is the Satyam. And therefore, I am the pure, untouched Atma. I am like space, which is ever unaffected, Nirmala Akashavat. And how long should I contemplate? He says, Nirmala Akashavat. And then Sada Bhavayet. Bhavayet Sada, meaning that may one contemplate for a very long period of time or contemplate without a break. So this concludes the Nididhyāsanam topic in Atma Bodha. With this verse, we conclude the Nididhyāsanam topic. We'll continue our study in the next class. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.